Okay, so let's go and start. Just introduce yourself and your opening remarks. 2 minutes.
Hi everyone, my name is Ellie. I'm currently the president of the True Crime Society and I have been for the last 2 years. Before this, I'd done a term as secretary as well. As well as this, I currently sit on the CZEC committee, which is the Community Zone Executive Committee, and we deal with society constitutions, new society starter packs, society grants as well. Being part of this system has given me a really good insight into how things work at the union, how societies work. I've collabed with many societies as well with true crime, so I see how other societies work. I think my positionality of being president for such a long time and on committee for longer as well, because I'm in 4th year, it gives me such a unique positionality to see what people are saying, to hear the feedback that people have, and that is what I've channeled into my manifesto. My manifesto comes from what I have heard people saying. I hit 5 main marks on my manifesto. I want to address the cost of living crisis by advocating for rent caps for both on and off-campus accommodation. I want to focus on sustainability and continuing initiatives such as the community fridge and pantry and also the community garden. I want to work on equality, such as supporting the LGBT society with their fundraisers and funding. I'd like to make drop-in sessions as well for queer people on campus to discuss attitudes. As well as this, I'd like to advocate for the improvement to accessibility on campus. My main pledge here is to urge the university to have tactile paving in the centre of campus, because it can be really daunting for people who are disabled to navigate campus central. I'd also like to hit transport and gender-based violence as well. With my transport campaign, I'd like to focus on 2 key initiatives, one being the creation of a park and ride off campus, and the other to create a platform to launch car sharing initiatives as well. To open. It's okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Adam. I'm a 2nd year international politics student, running to be your Vice President of Communities. I'd say I'm quite an experienced person despite being a 2nd year. I already sit on the Student Union Trustee Board. I'm a member of CZEC, and I've been the President of the Politics Society over the past year. My main 3 priorities really are student engagement, housing and mental health. Most of all though, student engagement to begin with, because a lot of people complain that they don't see the student union. They see it as more of an Instagram page than anything else. They don't do stuff. I know, although I'm involved, and I know differently, there is that perception that it's not okay. And people feel like they're not heard. People feel like they're not listened to. And then they feel hopeless, especially when it comes to things like the biggest crises for our students, when it's like housing and mental health or transport or anything else. And I think really my main priority would be getting people back involved. Like, we see, a 10% voting population of the student union. The university will continue to keep ignoring us and saying whatever, because they think students don't care. And we know they do. They just don't know how to get involved, or they feel like the union's too much of a clique. I want people to hear their voices. I want to empower people's voices, so we can focus on the issues of saying, look at housing, look at student accommodation, we need a rent freeze, or even a rent decrease, because cost of living is ridiculous. Or saying, look, we want to deal with the mental health problems. Look at how the university treats neurodiverse people. It's ridiculous. Why are people waiting till the last, or being made to wait till the last minute to get any help? And why is the university turning people away because they just are like, well, you don't have, say, whatever. And it's ridiculous. And I think this all comes back to the university doesn't feel like it has to listen. But we know they do, because without us as students.
Hi everyone, I'm Ali. I am a mature student studying journalism with film and media. I'm currently the secretary of Brig, and I've been an editor on the committee 2 years as well, so I really understand the impact societies have on students. My student journey would look very different and be much sadder without my involvement in societies. And I really want to put that energy back into improving societies for other people, because societies have done so much for me. So I've got two main pillars to my campaign, and the first one is strengthening societies. One of the ways I'd like to do that is to form closer bonds between faculty and societies where that makes sense. So like Brig, for example, and law and history, societies that have departments in the university, why isn't the faculty supporting the societies where it makes sense? Why aren't they promoting events to larger audiences? Why aren't they offering support and training, that kind of thing? I think if something like this was driven forward by societies, so we could determine what societies want and need, and then get faculty involved, it could really boost societies, it could really help out, and could really enhance the way the university sees societies. I think that currently they maybe don't see the value that it lies in them. Like, I literally came to Stirling to do my degree because Brig is so renowned as a student newspaper, and the university doesn't support that, and I think that needs to change. I don't want the university to take over societies, but I do want them to see the value they have. The second thing I'd like to do for societies is to have a societies clinic, which would be a regular, reoccurring drop-in session for society members and committee members to come and just get their problem solved.
That's okay, you were afraid to.
Hi, my name is Magda, and I am currently the secretary of the art club. I was the vice president the year before, and I'm the wellbeing officer of Stirling Musical Theatre. Societies have done a lot for me, and I've gained so many beneficial skills from being on committee and just being part of societies. So thanks to musical theatre, I got Scottish mental health training, and I would have not been able to get the opportunity if I wasn't on committee or part of the society. And because of that, as VP, I would want to provide these opportunities to the student body, because you come to uni, you are given the education part. Here are your classes, here's this. Everything else you're expected to figure out yourself. Anything to do with experience, whether it is involved to your degree or isn't, you're just expected to figure out by yourself. And then when you go to apply for jobs, you are 21, 22 years old, and they expect you to have 4 years of experience, which is just not possible. And as VP, I would want to create these volunteer opportunities, these fundraiser events where people can get involved and gain valuable skills in which they can then talk about in the future in interviews that they want a job for. And it doesn't necessarily have to be part of the degree that they have. For example, I'm a psychology student, however, with the art club, I'm currently organizing an art exhibition with the Photography Society. And that might not necessarily be part of my degree or part of something I want to do in the future. However, it is giving me organizational skills, planning an event is difficult. And that gives me something to talk about in the future in an interview. And I want other people to have that opportunity to have these unique things that they can put forward and provide and talk about that will make them stand out amongst other people. And another thing that I would really like to...
That's your time, I'm afraid.
I'm Kashali, I'm a postgrad student, and I'm currently the arts officer, so I'm also part of the CSEC. So many of you know me as the coding person, so I'm always ready to help organize events and work towards change in the university. And I want to continue this passion of mine through the position of VP Communities. My manifesto is built on 3 key points. First one, it's been sustainability, so from eco-friendly grants to societies to affordable and accessible transportation. I want to do all of these. Secondly is housing, because I believe that every student deserves to live in an accommodation that is suitable to them, and they deserve the resources needed for that. They deserve the support for that. Thirdly, and most important, societies and student life. So I intend to create more support for societies through funding, collaboration, and dedicated spaces where they can grow and thrive. There is one very important thing that I could not put into the manifesto, but I would like to continue with, along with my fellow candidates' lines, which is gender-based violence and women's safety on campus, because I have heard some really, truly horrifying stories from my friends about incidents of sexual harassment and assaults, and I myself have recently experienced something with this, and well, very bluntly, this is absolutely unacceptable, and if I am elected, this is something I will very strongly work towards, because students are voting for us and putting their faith in us and making us their representatives, least we can do for them is make the campus a safe place for them to live in. Thank you.
Now going to jump into some overall questions addressed to all of you, so all of you can jump in. First one, VB Communities has an extensive remit. How do you plan to cover all aspects of the role?
If I'm successfully elected, I plan to go into this role with good and strategic planning to balance all the remit that is required of VP Communities. I plan to also work with the volunteer officers that will also be elected next week. The tasks will be organised and delegated between myself and the volunteer officers when appropriate, and I feel this is skills that I have built on and picked up organising true crime and organising the committee in itself.
I think covering all. I think the priority should be, understanding what students want focused on the most. Because every single thing needs to be covered, but there are things that are more pressing to others. And I think listening to students of what they want is their priority. My priority is still housing and mental health, but I still believe that other people have needs and wants that we'd listen to. So I think, when it comes to these sort of things, I think making sure that my door is always open for people to raise their concerns so I can deliver on the problems that students face. Because, we aren't just here to sit and, try, we are here to represent your voice, and that voice needs to be, the key to every single thing.
So I was quite intimidated by the scope of VP Communities. So before committing to run, I gave a lot of thought about what I felt was achievable as a set of goals for a year-long term in a position like this. And I think I've identified some key kind of areas of focus, but I've also identified smaller goals that further the university and the union's position in every area of focus for VP Communities, like housing and sustainability. So I think being really realistic about what's actually possible to achieve, and kind of having quite focused goals is really important, because then you don't overextend yourself in one area and neglect one. You kind of know what you're going to do in each area.
Being on two committees, I learned a lot about organisational skills and a lot about teamwork, delegating tasks between people to make sure that it is manageable for everyone and nobody gets overwhelmed. And I love planning, I love making a list, and planning out a week or a month or a day, having a list of things that I want to achieve has helped me significantly handling a lot of things when I have what to do. And I would continue to implement those organisational skills I have developed as VP of Communities to make sure I am achieving the things I want to achieve.
So moving on to what all of them said. So firstly, delegation and collaboration. So working closely with our volunteer officers and other parts of the students' union and students' body. So encouraging student-led initiatives some more. And again, like she said, I'm more like a very organized person, so if you look at my calendar, it's insanely organized. And I plan to bring that to my role as VP Communities as well. The other two things that I want to bring forward are feedback-driven approach. So because, like Adam said, people look at the students' union as a clique, so we need to reduce that, and that will be reduced when we bring more feedback on the table from the student body itself, so that we know what they actually want us to do. And lastly, building on existing work from predecessors. So Justine has done a lot of amazing work over the past year, and whoever's elected, I think we would all want to build on that and continue her amazing initiatives.
Can you elaborate a bit more about your experiences within the society system?
I think for myself, I have a pretty extensive experience list. Being in true crime for president for 2 years and secretary for a semester before that has given me so many transferable skills that I would bring to the role as for VP Communities, as well as a CSEC, which does deal with the ins and outs of running societies, the society paperwork, things that would come under the remit of VP Communities. I've also helped launch other societies. I helped with the launch of the Marketing Society that was recently launched, helping the new committee pick it up and making sure they were on the same track with what was required from them. I've also collaborated with many societies to see the ins and outs of running other societies, not just my own. And I think all of this goes together with their very unique skill sets and the experience that I've gained for that over the past 4 years.
So being a president, as I mentioned, for a year, and also a member of CZEC. So I think being a president definitely gives you a lot of insight on societies and the amount of work that a lot of people do. I applaud Ellie for all her work in true crime. And I think also being on CZEC gives a lot of insight, especially when it comes to grant funding and access for students to ask for support and interest about societies. I think that's really sort of it. I know from experience I've been working with, as my capacity as politics president, working with other societies such as Feminist Society on trying to plan like a Women's Week with several different events, and I'm very strong organising, including getting difficult to reach politicians' offices and getting them to come. So I think
So I'm currently Secretary of BRIG, and I've been on the committee in an editor capacity for 2 years before that as well. And just like being president, I think being secretary for BRIG, the way it works is that the secretary manages the society, the deputy manages the paper, and the president does the emails. That's a joke. Secretary, it kind of encompasses a lot of organisational stuff, planning, communication with the society. Secretary also takes on the role of wellbeing officer at BRIG, so I've had experience supporting students who are having a hard time. I also stand on CZEC, just in a lay student capacity, but I have really gained an understanding of what goes on behind the scenes with societies for that. And obviously, throughout the time that I've been in BRIG, I've supported the rest of the committee to kind of achieve getting a newspaper printed, which is a lot of work actually. So yeah, and just the social side of things as well. I came into it kind of as a mature student, quite worried about fitting in socially, and at BRIG we've been able to accommodate having a lot of different types of social events, talks from speakers and going out drinking. We've played mini golf recently, but also coffee crawls have been a huge success. So accommodating students with different needs and backgrounds, I kind of understand the importance of that as well.
I've been running the Art Club Instagram for 2 years as being previously Vice President, now Secretary. And through that, I've worked through organising a lot of collaborations between societies. Art Club have collaborated with the Baking Society, with chess, with psychology, creative writing to create an anthology, which we've been doing one every single year. We've collaborated with the Photo Video Society to organise exhibitions here. Last year we actually collaborated with AirTV and made little props, which was super fun. And as wellbeing officer for musical theatre, I've been supporting the society for 2 years now. I've learned a lot about conflict resolution, and I've been working to be an approachable person that people can rely on, people can trust if they have a problem, if they're worried about anything at all. And through that, I've learned a lot about how people feel within society and how to make sure that people feel welcome and happy and just overall positive in a society, and finding a place that they feel that they belong and having a community.
Firstly, you guys gotta stop saying what I want to say, but it's good to know we're on the same page about these things, because whoever gets elected will be a good candidate then. I'm new to Stirling. I came here just last semester, so unfortunately I'm not part of any committees and clubs, but I'm an arts officer, so I'm also part of CZEC. So I have been quite involved with the societies at Stirling since the moment I stepped on campus. And as part of CZEC, I saw the struggles that societies have, funding struggles, resources, or just an actual physical space for their society. My biggest point to bring across would be supporting these societies. So in the last CSEC we had 2 new societies coming up, so there was a Chinese society and the Afro Science Society. So as soon as the CSEC was over, the meeting was over, I got in touch with them because they were all new students, and they would they could use some guidance over how to run a new society. So that's something I want to continue doing as part of the Students' Union. And the most important thing is I want to be someone who's going to listen to people, they take action, and just work towards real improvement of our societies, and make the system as smooth and efficient as possible, and maybe try to remove some of the bureaucracy out of it.
So what inspired you to run for the position?
I was first inspired because being in the president role, I really heard the feedback that people had toward the union and the runnings and the treatment of societies, the support that was given, the areas that were slightly lacking. Even today, I was speaking with the LGBTQ+ society, and they were very frustrated with the funding that was available for them as an EDI society. They didn't quite know what was available to them and what wasn't. And they felt they were lacking at being able to put on fundraisers because they didn't know what funding was available to them. And I really believe that if I was successfully elected, I could really elevate the union and address these people's, address society's concerns, address the concerns that people have towards the union, and make it a better place for societies and students to thrive in.
I think what I really inspired me was how working in the student union in different positions and seeing how things are ran and seeing the opinions of people, I really felt like, because I remember when I first started getting involved in this year, and I really felt like scared at first, and a lot of the time it felt like, well, there's no one there. It doesn't feel like it's involved. And often, particularly within the politics of it can feel like if you don't know anyone, then you can feel quite isolated. I think what inspires me is that I want to change that. I want it to feel open to all. And I know that it can be really open. It can be a fantastic experience, for whatever aspect you come from. But I really want people to be heard and people to feel like the union is working for them and not just another part of university, not just like, oh, we just use it for, I don't know, society grant money or societies have some more connection. It'd be nice to have your voice heard and have some, really see the impact that's made. And I really want to make an impact, and I really want people to say, hey, or when they come to it, go, hey, I really want to be part of this union. This is a great experience. They will fight for me, and they will do everything they can. And I think it's a great tragedy that many people don't see that, and that's what inspires me, because I want to change that.
To be perfectly candid, I didn't think I would ever run for anything like this because I find putting myself out there in this way very intimidating and very anxiety-inducing. But I got nominated. I got nominated to stand. So that really made me think like, okay, theoretically, if I was going to stand, what would I want to do? Why would I be standing? Would I be standing just because? Or do I think there are things that I could and want to achieve? And the more I thought about it, the more I kind of thought, well, I would like to do this actually, and I would like to advance this, and I came up with what I thought was a good set of ideas, a good manifesto, and then I wrote a list, because I do love writing a list, of pros and cons. And the biggest con was it's really scary. Which felt like not a good enough reason to not do it. So really what inspired me to run was just a little nudge towards it, and then a lot of thought about whether I would be good at it, whether I would be a good candidate. And when I had thought about it, then I decided, yeah, I could be good at this. There is a lot I want to do. There is a lot I want to put back into the university community. There wasn't a flash of inspiration or an inspiring story or anything like that. It was just getting over my fears and trying to do something worthwhile.
Being a well-being officer, I hear about things that are worrying people, things that are on people's minds, things that are overwhelming. And being a student is overwhelming. You're first year, you're thrown into it, and suddenly you have to do everything yourself. You need to manage your finances, you need to manage this, you need to figure out how to do this. And I thought that as VP, I want to make those things easier for people. I want to provide better mental health support. I want to provide better opportunities for people. So being a student is probably one of the most difficult parts of your life. It's overwhelming. You're learning so many new things just suddenly, and any sort of way that can make this easier for people, I will take, because I want people to enjoy being a student. You're still young, you're learning, and learning should be enjoyable and not terrifying. And I decided to run for VP Communities because I want people to start uni and expect good things and want good things and be positive instead of thinking about the future and being terrified, because I know how overwhelming that can be.
Well, like all of them said, once again, so university life is more about attending classes and just doing assignments and getting a degree. It's about building the communities together. It's about building relationships, and it's about the opportunity that you get together. And as someone who has been deeply involved in student life, I feel like I've firsthand seen how powerful the student community can be in shaping your university experience. And I've also seen the challenges that people face in this process. So from societies to just on a daily basis being a student itself. And as VP Communities, I want to be that voice for the students where they can come up with their concerns about this. And not only am I new to this university, I'm in a completely different country across the globe. So it's a very different place for me. And when I became arts officer, I just wondered that what can I do to leave an impact on this place and bring students together over here. And I also was extremely inspired by what Justine has been doing over the past year, all the great work she's been doing. And she's actually a very big reason why I'm going for this position, because I wanted to continue doing what she's been doing through the past year. Yeah, like I said, I'm running for this position because I want to amplify students' voices, and I want to find real solutions. It's not just about, saying that I will advocate for this or that, the proper action plan, the proper solution that I want to bring to the table. Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Wonderful. We'll move on to individual questions now. So we'll start there. What role do you think the university should play in addressing student facing issues?
I think the university fundamentally should take a role in this. I think the first role that the university should take is responsibility. It is very often their housing that comes up lacking for students and their needs. I think the university should offer rent caps or be open to rent caps or rent freezes for uni accommodation, both on campus and off campus. I think the university should also take housing standards seriously. For example, just this week, I had a friend living in Spittal Hill, Chalet 12, which they had been complaining about a bad smell in the flat for almost 2 weeks, and nothing was done until today that a burst pipe happened and sewage had actually flooded into their chalet and they got relocated. But the university did not take their complaints 2 weeks ago seriously. So it came to the point that mid-semester they had to up and move, which was extremely inconvenient. It was just a very stressful situation for them all. I think this was a fundamental failing on the university's part. I think they should be held accountable to housing issues. I also think they should try and increase the housing stock or work out the ratio between the students and the available housing, whether that be more housing or moving away from oversubscribing students onto courses.
And how do you plan to support students struggling with the cost of living crisis?
Well, first off, I think the most expensive thing for any student is housing. And like Ellie said, we should be arguing for rent caps. I'd go further and say rent freeze or even a decrease. So I think fundamentally, housing is such a core aspect and it's a fundamental, human right of every single person. And I think that needs to happen. Second of all, I think providing greater financial support, lobbying the university to improve the money support system, improve guidance on that system, because I know from experience that system they don't really inform you much of it. They don't tell you what support's there. You have to go and argue, you have to go and find it. And for many students who don't have the time nor the energy or even the money to spend because they've got time to work in part-time jobs or whatnot, to go ask for some support. And often they might be told no because on the ballot, on a sheet, it looks like they have more money than they actually do. And I think as well, looking at what else is there, I think trying to say, trying to make aware people of easier ways to reduce like things that will save them money. I think one of the biggest problems as well is transport. Like when it comes to transport, like unless you're under a certain age and have a young Scot card, or a lot of international students, or even people from the rest of the UK who are not Scottish, don't automatically have a young Scot card to just go and tap on the bus. And especially for mature and older students, it's a ridiculous price. And unless you have a car, and don't even get me started on the car park, which is ridiculous. I think, you're spending loads of money, and then on top of that you have trains, and it's ridiculous. And I think there needs to be greater awareness, and I think there needs to be, not just at Stirling, but I think we need to start saying, look, talking to other SABs, other universities, saying, we need to solve this. We need to make transport wide enough, because, it's expensive and ridiculous. And I think having a national campaign saying we want to lower train fares, we want to have lower buses. And I think that should be the priority. And I think, coming back to housing as well, especially for people with disability issues, why are they being forced to pay for extortionately high rent places just because that's the only accessible housing? There needs to be a solution here that says we need to build more accessible housing. We need to say, look, we need to reduce prices because it's not fair if people are being thrown under a bus. And I know there's schemes out there like DSA funding, but unless you have paperwork upon paperwork, you don't get access to that. And for some people, like for myself, I'm very lucky that I have had parents who are very supportive. But people who don't have that don't. And I think the university needs to make clear and aware. And I think we as students have to say we have had enough.
Ali, how will the Societies Clinic you mentioned in your manifesto work in practice, and how will you encourage society to engage with it?
So I think in practice it would just be maybe an hour or 2 hours a week set aside. It would be consistent every single week, so societies know from the start of the semester when it's going to be, where it's going to be, so that they know when they can come on. So I think there's a lot of things that societies could be supported more on. So CSEC grant funding, you have to fill out a form and you have to kind of plead your case. I think having a forum to get a little bit of feedback on that before you submit it could really help a lot of people. New society starter packs, again, you've got to fill out a form, so just a little bit of guidance on how to best put your best foot forward and that kind of thing. Just getting advice and help, like, oh, we want to run this event, or we want to do this, or we need this but we're not sure how to get it. Just kind of asking, the little questions where you're like, I don't know if I want to bother sending an email or setting up a meeting. You can just come along and kind of ask your questions. In terms of getting students and societies to engage with it, I think the very nature of something being every single week reliable, consistent, really builds a greater picture of accessibility that people know that they can kind of come to. I think as well as that, I'd really love to see more communication from the union to societies about things like, oh, the next CSEC grant funding deadline is coming up, or whatever it might be, and a kind of regular reminder, oh, this is happening, come along. As well as as it goes ahead, showcasing oh, this society came to the Societies Clinic and we planned an event, or stuff like that. I think could really go a long way. So yeah, in practice it would really just be like a time where people can come and drop in and get help.
Awesome. Magda, what steps would you take to improve access to mental health resources on campus?
I think the first step to that is destigmatizing mental health and getting access to mental health. I think the university has resources that it can provide. People are just afraid to access them because they'll think like, oh, it's not going to help me. Oh, there's so many things I need to do to actually get access to this. But what I would, to destigmatize, I would want to organize events where people can discuss mental health in a more comfortable, carefree, easy way, where it's not stigmatized, it's not awkward and uncomfortable. For example, in art club, we did an event with the residence assistants where we did a Bob Ross painting night. So just fun activities that are relaxing or calming, just where people can sit and discuss mental well-being and mental health. And if we had, and I would want to involve the society wellbeing officers in on this as well, having these events which are accessible to anyone, where people can just come and discuss well-being and also hear about the resources that the university provides. Having these events would then make people be like, oh, actually, you know what, maybe I'll give it a try. Maybe I will go to these resources and see what they can do. And the more people that are encouraged to access these, the higher the demand. And the higher the demand, the university will be forced to improve their resources, because they can't, if there's more people accessing them, they can't just stay the same. They're going to have to put in more effort to provide better mental support for students if more people are encouraged to access it.
Philip, how will you advocate for increased funding for societies that were able to fund their curriculum?
So as VP communities, I want to ensure that the studies receive the funding and the support they need to thrive on. So many studies struggle not because there's no funding available, but because they're not aware that there are resources available. So in this case, I want to make a twofold approach kind of thing. So first one would be to help them unlock the existing funding opportunities. So I want to create a one-stop resource where all studies know what kind of grants and funding and resources are available to them, and I will help them fill out the formalities for it, so like paperwork, forms, and any other support they need to secure those resources. Second would be to secure new funding opportunities. There's one option is sponsorship and partnerships from external organizations. So local businesses, alumni networks, all kinds of financial opportunities that could bring societies and back them up. So our media societies, AirTV, AirTV Radio, they could get funding from external organizations, from local organizations, or even further beyond. Because as far as I know, they're always looking for student talent in such fields. Secondly, there could be society-led events that are paid, so there's workshops that, again, given the example of media societies, they could have workshops where they teach the skills involved in filmmaking or break or something like that, where they are funded by the university or these external organizations, so that we can have more students taking interest in these fields and taking them further.
We've got another question for everyone, and just for the sake of time, we'll limit ourselves to 2 minutes this second. Okay, so Ellen, what specific changes would you make to the university policies on gender-based violence?
Looking at specific university policies, I'd like to focus in on the safety policy, which is available widely on the university's website. However, this safety policy encompasses a lot of things and not very many words. For example, gender-based violence, misogynistic violence is not a labelled subcategory within this. So I would like to expand this by introducing the existing modules, Don't Be a Bystander and the Consent Matters module, but rather than being an optional module, it would be mandatory for students and staff alike in their first year when they came to the university. I would also like the uni to work with charities more widely, such as Forth Valley Rape Crisis. There are existing initiatives between the university and this charity, however they are not well advertised at all and they are not fully fledged out very well. Another point in my manifesto was an anonymous reporting tool for gender-based violence-based incidents that happened. this would go off the back of the whistleblower initiative that the UK government recently launched as well.
Adam, how do you plan to improve the reliability of the bus service and how are you holding against it?
I think, first of all, saying to, I mean, in a personal view, I wish for their contract to be cancelled because they're the worst. I mean, if you look at them, they are the worst rated bus company in Scotland. It's ridiculous that we stay in a situation where we have multiple buses banging up, or an overcapacity, or putting on what really needs to be double deckers all the time, single buses. I think one of the first things, other than obviously wanting to petition them to be removed, is saying to McGill's, can we have the buses more spaced out? Can we have them run? Get student feedback and say, we know that we need them to run at this, not in a clump of 5, but in, like, say, one after another, because then you can regulate them all properly. I think, too, publicly saying, look how ridiculous it is, publishing it everywhere, because the easiest way to get companies to, respond is if you make their image look bad. And I know that it already looks bad and lower rated, but they're not noticing that. The second we start publishing it, they're going to notice, and people aren't going to go, well, why want it? That's why, as well, petitioning saying we want rid of them, to scare them into actually behaving and becoming a reliable source. Because it's not just the UL, it's the 54 as well. And I feel bad as well, not just for students, but local residents who are left almost shafted by the whole system. And I think just saying we have had enough, and almost publicly humiliating them, and to say we need more done is the best way to get it solved.
Alec, how will you use your experience in EDI to support underrepresented students?
So my experience and background in equality, diversity and inclusion has given me a really solid understanding and really changed the way I think about accessibility and inclusion kind of from a ground up way. So now I incorporate it in how I think about and approach basically anything that I try and do. And it's also given me a very broad awareness of these issues that I think sometimes it's hard to see at a glance. So like disability access, for example, it's not just a ramp for wheelchairs, but it's also easily accessible toilets for people with Crohn's disease, and it's quiet areas for people with sensory needs, that kind of thing. Also, I think I'm very aware of the focus on LGBTQ inclusion should be really safety driven, just because of how many people in that community feel unsafe or have had experiences where they've been put in unsafe situations. I kind of understand that that only needs to be the priority and focus, and other changes can kind of follow when people are able to feel safe. I've learned a lot of hard lessons as well through my work in this area. So I am queer and I'm disabled, so I can speak with some confidence on these issues. But I really strongly believe in the motif, nothing about us without us. So I understand that I can't really speak to certain issues. I can go out and educate myself to the best of my abilities, but I can't speak to issues of race because I am a white person. I really understand that conversations in these areas need to be driven by the people that they're going to affect. I think you can't kind of go running in blindly trying to fix a lot of problems without having a really solid understanding.
How will you encourage students to get involved in volunteering and social impact initiatives?
I think a lot of volunteering opportunities are often just buried in your student email, and you just see every week you don't pay attention to it. So I would want more publicity and more advertising for these volunteer opportunities. And within these volunteering and social impact opportunities, I want to give more to the volunteers. For example, like free coffee, free tea, like have a free trip to an event, stuff that will make them feel more, oh, I'm actually doing something quite fun whilst also learning something I would also want to see, I would also want societies to advertise these volunteer opportunities more and directly ask societies to get involved with these volunteer opportunities and social impact opportunities, whether it's the committee or all of the society itself. And I think that would also create a lot more community, have a lot of the societies get involved. I would also want the sports societies and the creative societies to interact more and create more like two separate entities but one big community. And through these volunteer opportunities and asking societies of both to work together, I think would encourage people to get involved more and take these opportunities that I would like to provide them with.
Finlay Kushali, how will these sustainable society grants be allocated and what criteria will societies need to meet?
So for that grant, I'm going to try and keep the process as transparent as possible. So I feel like in this case, societies that come up with innovative, impactful, and feasible sustainability projects should receive the support they need. The application process would be similar to the CSEC grants process. This is a proposal, and the funding will be allocated depending on the scale of the events. So small scale, medium scale, large scale, depending on that. The focus will obviously be sustainability, so reducing carbon footprint, wastage management, or eco-conscious practices, something like that. On those lines, the event has to be. And through this, I also want to support inclusivity and collaboration between societies. So the events that involve multiple societies and reach out to wider audiences would always be encouraged and given priority to.
Great. We're now going to open to questions from the floor. Anyone has anything?
Transport was mentioned quite a lot throughout that. The Scottish Socialist Youth laid the groundwork for a coalition of better buses across Tayside and Central Scotland. It was quite a lot of work and there was only a few of us. But there was actually a mechanism through which councils can seek the public ownership of buses in the area via a regional transport partnership called TACTRAN. I don't know if you'd be open to working with and talking to councillors about potentially exploring that avenue.
If I was successfully elected, I think that's an incredible initiative, and I do everything in my power to work with SSY to come to some mutual agreement that has an overarching benefit for the wider community and students, definitely.
I think along those lines as well, I'd be very happy if elected to hear and see what we can do to support your campaign, because I think buses is such an important issue, not just for students but across the whole of Scotland, and I think delivering real change would do so much for our student experience.
I would 100% support something like that. I used to live in Edinburgh where the buses are nationalised, and it's much better there than it is here. So anything that can get us further away from what we've got and closer to what they've got, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Buses are completely impossible right now. Like trying to get to campus, trying to get to a class can take up to over an hour. So absolutely, I would, if I got elected, I would absolutely work with you to improve buses for students.
Okay, everything we said. But adding on to that, unfortunately, within Stirling, where Midland, where the company is sort of a monopoly. So in terms of being realistic, I would say there's no point in going very volatile about this. There's gotta be an aggressive approach to it, but that should also be feedback and stats based. I think Adam said, there needs to be proper stats from what the students need and taking that to the company so that we can reach a negotiation or a compromise where both parties benefit equally.
Any more questions?
I have two questions that go across the board. The first one is how do you all plan on implementing your policies? And the second one is how do you plan on, I mean looking around, there's not many people here. How do you plan on your next election, hope for re-election, to get more people into this hall?
Okay, to start off, to go back to the first question, I'm so sorry, can you just repeat it?
Yeah, it was how do you plan on implementing your policy ideas?
To implement my policy ideas, I spent a lot of time researching existing policies. I would take these on board and look at the main priorities that I have in my manifesto and other ideas that are pitched priorities within the union. I'd take these to go on to who would be the best person to reach out to, whether that be societies, whether that be volunteer officers, whether that be the higher ups at the union or the universities. I would drive forward change for it and take it to the appropriate people who would be able to help me make these changes. Can you just remind me the second one as
Well, how do you plan on getting more people in this hall at this time next year? You know, what's your plan?
I'd like to very confidently say that this being my very first year of campaigning, I'd like to say that over the course of the next year, if I do decide to re-campaign, I would have picked up key skills from doing this, the experience of doing this, hopefully the experience of sitting as VP Communities if I am elected. Over the course of the year, seeing what does drive feedback, what does drive engagement, trialling initiatives throughout the year to see what one could then be best applied to the campaign and elections when it comes round in another year.
I think in terms of the first question, in terms of implementation, when it comes to engagement, I think one of the key things we need to remember is why are students feeling like they're not heard? So one of the things I'd really love to do is, before going to meet with officials or whatnot, get student feedback so I know what they want asked at these important meetings. Say if I had a meeting with the head of accommodation, say, what do the students want me to say to them? And say, we want to change this. This is what these students have been saying, and really emphasise that forward, and you'll work with the officers on that, volunteer officers. And I think as well, like for the other two, mental health and housing, I think getting those policies to be implemented, we really have to increase in student engagement. The university, I sort of said it before, they need to sort of, if we are not being angry vocally, the university thinks they can sort of stamp on us. And I really think we need to have that engagement in order to prove to the university that we can. And going to the second one about increasing your engagement anyway, like I said, I want my door to be always open. Everyone should be able to come and say, look, I have these issues. What? And I say, I will bring this up. I will bring this up at this next meeting. To get people into this hall, I want, by showing that we care as sabbatical officers, gets people involved, because people only want to come to these things if they feel heard. And it will be my priority, my mission, that if elected, to make sure every single person has a positive and says, I am heard.
I think for me, the way I'd go about achieving my goals is by having news, supporting students with applications, that kind of thing, just takes time. The sort of the other things that I want to do, like I think it's a lot of it is going to be about communication. I think the union already does a lot of amazing stuff, but I'd really like to strategize new communication pathways or techniques or something like that to make it so more people know about what the union is doing, what the union can do for them. In terms of increased engagement, again, I'm going to come back down to communication. I think that the university doesn't show enough interest in the union elections. I think it's appalling. I think, why is the university not pushing student engagement? I think that something needs to be done to foster kind of collaboration between the union and the university, so the university helps encourage student engagement. They have tools to email every student. Why are they not letting them know about these important elections that we've got going on, that kind of thing?
If I get elected as VP Communities, I want to be someone that people feel comfortable to approach, that people see me as someone who is safe to talk to and they can trust to communicate their needs. I want to be as involved with societies as I can, drop by workshops every now and again, talk directly to students as much as I can to hear from them and see what they want, and then be incredibly insistent and annoying when it comes to talking to, for example, accommodation and mental health scores, and just be very insistent and stubborn, like, no, this is what the students need, this is what they ask for, this is what they want, this is what we'll be implementing. And because it feels like a lot of the time students are either not listened to at all, or the students ask for something but they get given a very lazy version of it, and I want the best quality of support for students, and I will be very insistent on, no, we're providing the best quality that we can, we're not just giving them something to get them off our backs.
For me, in terms of implementing the plans, firstly, action plans, not just statement policies. And I'm already working towards my action plans. I've already got in touch with the respective parties that I want involved in action plans. Secondly, I feel like this means implementing my plans means approaching the right person with the right information. So taking the right proposal to the right person and making the student union and the student body aware of that. So the students also should know whom to approach about whatever concern or anything that they want to bring forward. And secondly, in terms of having this room more filled up, I feel like the Students' Union could use some cultural diversity, and look at this room right now. So, like Adam said, the Student Union feels like a clique to certain people, but I feel like that's because of a lack of cultural diversity, and well. So, we could use some of that, and I feel like if we have some cultural diversity, people would want to be more involved if they see someone representing their culture, especially for international students. Because if everybody in the city is Scottish, then how will international students feel ready to approach them? So, me. Yeah, but sorry about that.
We've got time for one last question.
Okay, I was just going to say because it raises Okay, so my question is, I would say to Adam, but everyone else can answer. I mean, Adam, you've been having lots of discussion around opening your doors to students, making sure that they feel welcome to approach you and all that. I think my question is going to be, what are the initiatives that you put in place to sort of reach out to students instead of them reaching out to you?
I think one of the first things, like I said, is getting student feedback so they know that I'm asking the right questions and asking what they want at meetings. And I think as well, building upon other ideas such as, making sure the door is always open, and then but also going out there and saying, so like housing, for example, right at the start of last semester, I saw Justine's house, playing on the housing campaign, you're going out. But at the same time, it took me actually looking it up to go see it. I want things like initiatives like that put front and centre, so people know that we're going out, so people know that I'm going out in the middle of the HM or whatever and saying, look, this is a problem. What do you want me to say about it? What do you want me to say about mental health? What do you want me to say about housing? What do you want me to say about transport, sustainability, societies, and also particularly when it comes to society engagement, going to societies myself and speaking to the committees, outreaching them, go, what concerns do you have? What do you think the student union is not doing to support you? What would you like better? And then taking that and going, right, this is what we can do, actionable plans, and saying, put something forward to prove to students that their voice is making a difference, if that makes sense.
Unfortunately, we're out of time for questions, but if you have any other questions, feel free to message Bright and we will put the questions to the candidates. So now we're just going to give you all 1 minute for your closing remark.
Going back to my experience in societies and in the union of the past 4 years, 3 years, coming up to 4 years, I have loved every minute that I have been involved in societies and been involved in the union. And I am forever grateful for the support that the union had given me with True Crime, with CSEC, to help other societies. And I'd love to give back and pass that on of what they have the support that they have given me to pass that on to future generations of students and future societies and future society endeavours.
I think just as a closing remark, I mean, I think that like I said, the priority is getting the voices heard, getting out there and saying, let's make a difference. Let's, you know, not just say, and it feels weird saying scare the university, but get the university scared of its students, because without it, you know, without us as students, they wouldn't be here. So, you know, we are the priority, and they should recognise that. And that will be my own priority. I'm experienced, like I said, I'm experienced. I've been on the trustee board. I understand some of the union workings. I understand societies from being a president of CSEC, and I will, you know, if elected, deliver as much as I can to ensure that every single person feels like they are heard and represented.
I mentioned my first main pillar. My second main pillar is harm reduction. I think this is really, really important for safe students. I also want to prioritise housing and sustainability as well. I have a lot of experience. I'm a mature student. I've had a professional career before I came back to university, and I think that puts me in really good stead to fight in the corner of students, to prepare reports, to prepare speeches, to use that experience to benefit students. I think I've got a lot out of being here, and I want to put that back into making it better for everyone else.
Through my experience of being a wellbeing officer, I've learned so much about the struggles of other students, other people within my societies, and how difficult it is to be a student. And all I want to do is just make this part of everyone's lives so much more easier, so much more comfortable, and for people to actually enjoy being a student, enjoy the social aspect of being a student, and not have to be so afraid of the future, because the future is terrifying, but you don't have to be afraid of it. You should be able to look into the future and think positively about it. If you're a student at university, you have so many things that you can do and so many opportunities, and you should be able to take those and not be afraid of what's to come, and think, what else can I do, and be excited about the future.
In my case, I've only been at Stirling for a few months, but every day I spent as arts officer was something I really, really enjoyed and I'm grateful for, because I got to be involved in the student life of Stirling. I could meet new students and understand their student experience. And I want to make a joke of cultural diversity, international students, but I want to be the voice of every student at Stirling, regardless of where they come from, and bring forward and try to make the university what they actually want it to be. And why people should vote for me? My name literally means bringing people together and making them happy, and I intend to live up to it if I do get the position.
Brilliant, thank you very much.